All right. Well, like I put in this post, um, the DFL apparently is now saying that climate change is so bad, right? This existential threat. And I'm sure that somebody was debating clearly in the DFL circle, how do we make climate change scarier? And apparently what they came up with is climate change is racist. It's climate change is a bigot, apparently, according to some legislation that was drafted in the state senate, and that, as well as I want to do some tales from the swamp tonight. I've got an update on this climate change bill, and um, we're just going to break about. Oh, I got another firearms bill too, so we're going to break into that stuff tonight on this very ad hoc behind the smoke. All right, so I thought I'd do a couple things tonight, actually, because I get asked this a bunch. How do you even look up bills? How do you know how to find these things? How do you look up how somebody voted on a particular bill? And I get this asked enough, or I thought I would work that in today too, because I want to pull up a couple bills, this gun bill and this climate changes racist bill. And I thought I'd weave in how to actually look these things up, which I know can be not exactly exciting for tons of people, but if you're trying to figure out how to navigate the state's website, it is a little cumbersome. So I thought I would show you that. And I'll break this, or I'll get this going with this bill. I'm going to pull this up. Okay. So I'm going to pull this up. So, yeah, I know I'm looking at Google. I use Google on my desktop here, but I'm a DuckDuckGo guy on the phone. Um, but so this is where most people would start, right? You go to a website. I'm going to show you how I pull this up to this day, even though I probably just know the website. I just do a search for MN State House. And this first result, it's this house.mn.gov. And the first bill I wanted to look at, and let's just say you know your bill number. You start this top menu, and you're just going to go to bills. And then which body you want to search for. And the one I want to search for is in the Senate. So I'm going to go to Senate here, and then I'm going to pull up the bill number. If you know your number, you just slap it in this box. If you don't know the number, maybe you know something it's about, which I'll use next. There's a keyword search here. So it actually works pretty slick once you figure out how to get in here. So I'm going to pull up 476. The author here is Senator Mitchell. And you can see official actions, what has happened on this bill. So this is this climate justice instruction for school districts and other charter schools required. They want to make this required. And I'll show you what this thing does, at least at a high level here. But here's official actions. So you can see it was introduced, about a month ago on January 19th, got its first reading, referred to education policy. And last week, 4 days ago, it came out of education policy committee and it's now in education finance. So what does this thing say? Well, again, I'm going to try to take the time to show you how to navigate this thing. You can see this version list. So I'm going to click on that, and this would show me all the different engrossments of the bill. And you can see there's really only one so far. So this thing hasn't been amended since being introduced. So I'm going to click on this guy. And I mean, it's pages and pages long here, so I'm not going to read all this, but it doesn't take long to see the gist of what they're doing here. So you can see the climate justice instruction. So of course they're going to define what is climate justice. As using the section means a framework that puts people first and views the effects of climate change as interconnected with forms of oppression, connecting climate change to social and economic justice issues. So apparently, in the first sentence of this bill, climate change is racist. There must be climate justice taught in our schools. The way that they are willing to combine all these issues and make them seem like it's one big issue, and the way we've got these social and economic issues tied to everything, it's truly unbelievable. But I just saw this bill and thought, Man, people need to see this thing. Go find it yourself, give it a read. Because as I read it the other day, it only gets stranger and stranger. And I'm trying to find what I saw the other day. Oh, climate changes has a disproportionate effects on communities facing systemic oppression, specifically Black, Indigenous, and other persons of color, people with disabilities, and low income communities globally. So apparently, if you're a white man, climate change really doesn't affect you. But if you're a person of color and you live next door to a white man, then climate change must be really affecting your side of the fence. So if that's happening, man, I'm sorry. That's a shame that climate change would be such a bigot here. Um, but this is literally legislation in Minnesota, and they're going to force teachers to teach this stuff. So, oh, look at that. It's only 3 pages. Not too shabby, but crazy stuff there. So, I want to show you that. The next thing I wanted to pull up, and I don't know the bill number, so I'm going to stick with this again. Maybe this is helpful for some. Maybe some are like, this is boring and they're just not watching. But how to navigate this site. So, I'm going to go back out. So I'll go all the way back. I click on that little guy, and I want to find the Senate bill, the newest gun control bill that came out of Senate. I don't remember the number, but again, I'm going to go to bills. I'm going to go to Senate because I know it was a Senate bill. I haven't seen a House version of the bill get introduced. So here's that same screen. Last time I knew my number. This time I don't. So I'm just going to go down to a keyword search, and I know this bill puts a restriction or a definition of a large capacity magazine. So I'm going to do a word search for magazine. And here we go. We've got 3 bills. And I know it's this one because it was the latest one to get introduced. So Senator Marty here has this bill, which, again, I'm going to show you a little bit of this just to show how crazy these people are. And on top of that, to remind people, as I try to weave in some of this stuff, very rarely is there a lack of information in the Capitol or just for politicians at large. It could be your city hall, it could be your county commissioners. Like, there's not a lack of information. They know when they're violating your rights. They just don't care. And I'll tell you why they don't care. They don't think there's going to be any consequences. They think people are tuned out. They're more fearful of leadership and what they might do to them than they are what the people might do to them. So when there's no consequences for bad behavior, you get more of the bad behavior, just like raising kids. So we need to be the ones to instill that punishment for their bad behavior, that political punishment. So here I am on this bill, 1723, and you'll know what I mean by what I just said, that they just don't care. They fly in the face of their constitutional oath. You can see the bill authors here, Marty, Bolden, and Mann. It just got introduced, the 16th, and it looks like it's just sitting in the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee at this point. But you go to this version list, and it's still the original version. And check this out. I'll scroll down and try to highlight this. So that gives a legislative intent and purpose, which is a little unusual if you've seen a lot of bills. But I mean, what they write in this legislative intent and purpose, it's like the complete opposite of what they're putting in this thing. So they put to protect the life and liberty of Minnesotans from gun violence by people who would deny those rights. Let's see, they just kind of pontificate for a while here. But where it gets interesting is this. The United States Supreme Court has held that the Second Amendment guarantees an individual right to bear arms in self-defense. Of course, they go into, well, however, the court has acknowledged there might be some reasonable restrictions. And then it says this legislation is consistent with the court's holdings and strikes a proper balance between an individual's right to bear arms and the compelling interest of the state. A dangerous person. Yeah. So then it says, noting nothing in this legislation infringes on the constitutional right to keep and bear arms. They just put it right in their bill, where then the bill is I think it's 38 pages of infringing upon your constitutional right to keep and bear arms. But they had the gonads to put that in the bill, and I'm sure it'll trick some people. I'm sure some gun control folks will say, what do you mean this infringes upon your constitutional right? In the bill itself, it says it doesn't do that. So not only are we in a day and age where they name bills things that reflect what the bill doesn't actually do, like the what did Biden call it? The anti-inflation act or whatever it was. It was supposed to kill inflation, but of course we're not seeing that. Um, so this thing goes on for 38 pages and makes all sorts of changes. You can see my search result for the magazine term. And I can probably find that quick. They want to define a large capacity magazine. I think it's right in here. Fixed magazine. Large capacity magazine. Here we go. It is saying you can't have a magazine capable of carrying more than 10 rounds. And I wonder if I can. Well, I probably scroll past it, but whatever. That's the ban they want to put in place. And on top of that, the other big thing this bill does is it requires another license from the state just to own a firearm. Own or possess a firearm. Own or possess. You need a valid license from the state of Minnesota. So it'd be a brand new license requirement. And it does make me wonder. In fact, I'll just go back and who are the authors of this bill? Senators Marty, Bolden, and Mann. So they want to introduce a new licensing requirement in order to do a protected activity, a constitutionally protected activity of carrying a firearm. But how much you want to bet Marty, Bolden, and Mann here that want to create a whole new licensing program? They probably don't support driver's licenses in order to vote, and because they say that that's racist. So I don't know why they would create a new gun control bill that, according to their logic, would be considered racist. But if we just apply the same logic, which I know is very unpopular to do in liberal circles, that's what they're doing, and it's a huge infringement on people's guns rights. This also makes you have insurance. They're going to force you to buy an insurance policy, and you will not be issued a license until you provide proof that you have an insurance policy. So that bill is absolutely, I think, the worst gun control bill that the Democrats have introduced here, which says a lot because there is a ton of them both in the House and the Senate. So let me think about this. Let's say you want to, I'm weaving in how to use this website a little bit. So let's say you want to know what bills the governor has signed into law or a bill that's taken a certain action. You can go to, House or Senate here. And let's say I want to find which houses have been, or which House bills have been approved by the governor. You can go down to search by action and find the action that you want to see. So here's governor approval. Click go, and that'll pull up what do we have? About a dozen different bills, 10 bills that the governor signed into law thus far. So that's another way to search this. And I know this probably isn't super interesting for most people, unless you've really been dying to figure out how to find bills in here. But I'll go back out again. I'll show you again. Let's say you want to find, let's just go bills again. Here's bills. But let's say you want to find what bills were introduced by, let's say Brad Tackey. I'll pick on the guy here in Shakopee. So we go back to our bill search, and then you can find chief authors, or you can just find any bill that his name is on there as an author, as a co-author. But we'll just go to here and find Mr. Tabke. And there's a lot of them. Here's Tabke. He's got 32 bills. Click go, and there's all the bills that he's introduced. So those are like the most common, easy to show ways to look up bills. Just go to that one site, MN State House, do that Google search, and go to bills and go look at House or Senate. And then whether we got the number, a keyword, or the author you want to pull up, it's pretty self explanatory once you get there. Now, let's say you want to look at how somebody voted on a bill. All right. I'm going to go to that House File 1, that pro abortion bill that the governor signed into law. You can see it's had 12 actions, including one of them has become law, approved by the governor. So let's say you want to figure out how do people vote on this. I'm clicking on the bill, and then these are all the actions. So you've got actions in the House, actions in the Senate, and you can just scroll right through this thing to go say, all right, bill was passed, and here's the vote, 69 to 45. Click on that guy, and that'll pull up the vote. And this thing is way blown up. So typically I have to scan through quite a few votes if there were a bunch of amendments. So you can see here's amendment on this bill. So the final bill passage would be at the bottom. Here's House File 1 for passage. The vote of 69 to 65. View the vote. And then those who voted in the affirmative, I think it passed on party lines, if I recall right. So then there's all the Republicans that voted against it. So that's some really quick ways just to show you how to navigate this beast, talk about a couple of the bills going on, and then I thought I'd share a couple fun stories from the Capitol and do some of these tales from the swamp. All right, so I've got a bunch of these stories, and I'm going to pick on somebody a little bit with this one tonight because actually I've got a couple from this person because somebody's reminded me of a bunch of these things in the last couple months, I guess. Some people in the street that stopped me and just were asking about what's going on and how crazy it was that people were door knocking down here in Shakopee, other legislators, and they thought that they were Democrats. So I thought I'd take a couple minutes and tell some fun stories about Representative Josh Heintzman, because the guy is just, he's all sorts of special. And frankly, the people up in the Brainerd area deserve somebody way better than Josh Heintzman. So him and I don't even know how we got into it, him and I, but like I said, none of this stuff is personal to me. I'm going to look at these comments because I've had issues with my microphone. Yeah, apparently everything is racist. So Josh Heintzman, I don't know how we butted heads. I really don't understand the origins of it, but I remember he would wear a mask every day on the House floor. And I would just kind of look at him like, come on, man, like grow a pair. You take this thing off. And then, if we just resist, like many of us were telling people, if you want the mandates to come to an end, stop complying. But he would never comply. And I remember picking on him for that. But one day I'm sitting on the House floor, like if this is the desk, and Heintzman comes up to my left here and kneels down and says, hey, I just, this is what he said. He said, hey, look, I know you hate me and I hate you. And I was like, I don't hate you. So I have nothing personal against anybody in the House here. I said, I have issues with, how you behave and how you vote, but that's it. And he said, well, no, you hate me. You hate me. It's like, you're telling me that I hate you, and I don't nothing personal against the guy at all. And so he goes, but I just want to thank you for not getting my wife involved in this. And I'm still confused with what even this was and what he's referring to, because I didn't hate anybody in the building. And then I'm further confused because he's like, thanks for leaving my wife out of this. Like why would I bring your wife into this? This makes no sense whatsoever. So that was, I'm going to give these in chronological order here too. So that was one interaction on the floor that was just super weird, but he did express some sincere gratitude for not bringing his wife into whatever was going on there. And then you get to a couple of candidates came down to the Capitol, and I guess I'll keep their names out of this, but it was a husband wife. I guess they both weren't candidates, but one was the spouse of the candidate. And I'm giving them a tour around the Capitol, around the House floor, and I was just telling them how petty, truly petty, the people in that building are. It's like a high school. It's all cliquey, and I told these two, I said, People won't even say hi. Like the Democrats that claim they're so tolerant and open minded, like you say good morning to Speaker Hortman, she will not say good morning back. And even on the Republican side, saying hi to people in the hallways, and people were just, if you weren't part of the cool kids club, they wouldn't even say hello to you. So I told this to this couple, and I don't know if they believe me or not, but probably 30 minutes later, we're in the state office building, and I'm giving them a tour of the little area, and I see out of the back corner of my eye some movement. I look, and there's Josh Heinzman. And I just, wave at him, said, "Hey, what's up, Josh?" And he said nothing, but he saw the two people I was with, and he just beelines over and shakes their hands and is all smiles and glad handing them. And I'm kind of looking at Josh, and I finally said, "Well, you can't say hi to me?" And no joke, no joke at all. He turns and looks at me and goes, "Yeah, I don't say hi to you." Like that 100% happened. There are witnesses. There was actually a staffer that saw it too, and came up to me after Josh walked away, and the staffer was like, "That guy is the biggest, fill in the blank." So that's what the Capitol is like. It is, when I say it's a club. If you're not in the cool kids club, whether by choice or not, um, man, it is just petty. But then I gotta pull these two stories together, because then you go to August. So this is what, 6 months ago. There's a primary going on here in Shakopee. It's me against Bob Lunan for like the umpteenth time. And I'm coming home from something. And I'm coming down my street, and I see a white car parked in front of my house. And the car is almost like, it is blocking a portion of my driveway, which drives me crazy. Like, you don't block someone's driveway. Um, And as I get closer, I see a bumper sticker. So I'm just like glued to that bumper sticker as I'm pulling in, and I see the bumper sticker says Heinzman for house. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" And I look up, and there's Josh Heinzman talking to my wife on our front porch, trying to convince her to vote for my opponent in the primary. And I've been asked, people have asked me about this, because there's actually a story. I'll show this. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. So Alpha News did a story on it, and somebody just asked me about this the other day, which is why I thought I'd bring it up. Yeah, here it says Josh Heinzman, a Republican, at least by name, from the Brainerd area, went door knocking on Monday in support for Bob Lunan, who's running. And for those who need a reminder, I had like the most conservative voting record in the entire state legislature, the most conservative voting record. And this guy from a super conservative area in Brainerd is coming down to door knock against me to help his swamp buddy Lunan try to finally get a W, but he ultimately failed. And like I said, I've had so many people come up to me and say, "Yeah, that Democrat knocking your door." And I'm like, "No, that was actually a Republican, a sitting Republican legislator." So I Josh, I appreciate you thanking me for keeping your wife out of things, but man, I'd sure appreciate the same level of respect here. Although this is all old news, I'm just making fun of it because that all pulls in my tales from the swamp. Um, so that's really all I've got tonight. I decided I'd do something pretty impromptu here. Um, but you got to check out those bills, and the gun bill, the crazy climate change bill is just absolute crazy. I'm dying to see where that thing goes, but I saw it did pass out of one committee already, and I'll sift through some of these comments. Yeah. Tabkey, I'm telling you, that guy, the guy that I lost to in November, and then I lost to in November of 2018, and Brad Tabkey's his name. The guy is like, if you look at politician in a dictionary, it's that guy, like just sort of, I don't know, sleazy looking. And the dude is a good politician. There's no doubt about that. And mark my word, that is not a compliment. To be called a good politician, in my mind, it means you're really good at lying to people in their face. And he is, yeah, he has successfully duped people in Shakopee here for quite a while. That he campaigns as this moderate kind of like pro gun guy. but he's clearly not, and you can tell by the voting record. But we'll see if people see through his stuff here in 2024. Deb, this is seriously like living in the twilight zone. Yeah, it is. It's absolutely. I can't believe. I mean, just think about the last 3 years with mask mandates and vaccine mandates. That even now is widely accepted that natural immunity is just as strong or just as meaningful as the vaccine. In fact, I would argue it's probably far more meaningful because of the adverse effects that the vaccine is causing. Um, let's see what else we got here. What a love tales from the swamp, knowing I'm not the only one around. Oh man, you want to see crazies, John? You go down to the Capitol. Maybe you get down there, but that's where the crazies are at, is hanging around the state office building, the Senate office building. Those people are absolutely certifiably nuts, as proven by these bills they're introducing and passing. And again, that's what frustrates me as Democrats get their grips on power, and my golly, they use it. And Republicans, you know, I think what's happening is Democrats here know how weak and soft Republicans have been for decades. And I'm convinced that's one of the reasons they're just going all out right now, knowing that it could cost them their majority in 2024. But they don't care. And I think largely they don't care because they know Republicans traditionally in Minnesota refuse to undo any of the stuff that Democrats put in place. Republicans had the ability to get rid of the new income tax bracket, but they never did. The things that Democrats put in place in Minnesota oftentimes are here to stay because Republicans refuse to flex their muscle when they have it. And that's one of the biggest issues we have. Yeah, cars pulling snowboarders in Shakopee. I think that went national. And we used to do that in the high school parking lot. Probably shouldn't admit that, but that's nothing new in Shakopee. I can vouch for that. Um, well, that's what I've got. If share this thing if you think it's helpful to show people how to use that state website. It's a little quirky, but man, if you don't know how to get in there and play with it, it's super helpful to be able to do that and see what bills are popping up and which ones are moving through committee, because that means, they have some life and they might just get passed if they're getting their second reading. So that's what I got. Have a great Saturday night, everybody. We'll catch you